Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. This is the show that is going to help you become your best self. And today we are talking about communicate assertively, not aggressively. Before we jump right into that, I invite you to come over and say hi to me on Instagram, which is at Sabrina Joy Perozzo. You're able to find that down in the show notes if you aren't able to remember or spell that. I get it. My last name is tough. So again, at Sabrina Joy Perozzo or on Clubhouse at Sabrina J. Perozzo if you want to have like an actual real dialogue with me. Although I like voice messages on IG too, either way. Or if you prefer an old-fashioned email with any questions, comments, concerns, prayer requests, feedback, topic suggestions, or just to say hey, hi, and hello, send me an email to realpositivegirlpodcast@gmail.com. So without further ado, let's jump into today's topic. Again, we're talking about communicate assertively, not aggressively. So I recently had a discussion with my therapist about how my view of aggressive communication isn't actually as aggressive as I thought. And I think the reason I thought it was aggressive is because people made me believe that the way that I communicated was aggressive. And this could have been for many reasons, but it could have been that they were intimidated, jealous, or just desiring to put me down, or kind of just misunderstood what I was trying to communicate or tell them. Also, sometimes, and I'm not saying this is a lot, but sometimes people of color, whether you're black, brown, or just a different race other than white, sometimes, not all the time, I'm not saying this is an all the time thing. This is not an all the time thing. But sometimes, if you are of a different race than that person, sometimes they can label you as aggressive because, again, the way that you're communicating is different from them. But I would say typically it's just people just don't understand what I'm trying to get across and they feel intimidated and they're like, wow, you're coming off real aggressive. When I'm trying really not hard to, but it doesn't really matter why, but just the fact that it happened. And yeah, it's a problem, but I had this conversation that it wasn't. It was just more assertive. So it was nice for me to realize that I was just being the assertive person I had always wanted to be, which was actually pretty cool. But then I wanted to understand more about how I can be the best assertive communicator I could be and not drift into aggressiveness too much or at all if I could help it. So this means I would need to understand the differences between both, between being assertive and then being aggressive. And it's really important to me, even now, not like I had this conversation recently with my therapist, so it's still important to me. And I think it'll be important to me always because I don't want to come across as aggressive unless I'm trying to actually be aggressive unless I'm trying to, wow, you guys, I am having the most trouble speaking today. I apologize. I don't want to come across as aggressive unless I'm trying to be aggressive, unless I'm trying to really make someone understand what I'm trying to say, or I'm trying to stick up for myself or someone else, or where it actually calls for me to be aggressive, not just willy-nilly every single conversation that I have with people. So it's really, really, really important to me. And I'm sure if you are labeled as someone that can be aggressive in communication, you would feel the same when you feel like you're not trying to come across that way. You're just trying to stand up for yourself and what your desires and beliefs and needs are. So understanding the differences between both. Let's start with assertive communication first. Being assertive is about being upfront with what you want while also considering what the other people want. I see it as being respectful to everyone all the way around. So not only are your needs and your desires super important to you, but it is important for the other people that are, within the conversation to be respected as well, to also benefit from whatever, requests that you're making or decision that's being made between all of you. So all the way around. But it's important to know that your needs and feelings and wants are just as important as anyone else's. And that's a fact. It is a fact. You can't let someone that might be upset with you deciding to be assertive make you feel responsible for them being upset about that either, because a lot of people will, especially if it's a new occurrence of you deciding to be assertive and not necessarily passive, which we will talk about passive communication probably like next week. I really do want to go over that too. But once you shift from being passive or even aggressive into being just more assertive, people might get really like upset about that because, there's a myriad of reasons, but you want to make sure that they are not projecting their feelings of being uncomfortable with you deciding to be assertive about what you want be projected onto you, because they will try to blame you. Be like, oh, well, I can't do that because of how you're making me feel, or how you're talking to me, or how you want this and you don't want it for other people, which isn't true. A lot of times that these emotions that are projected onto us are sometimes made up illusions of what that person believes in their mind, or they're just making it up in general to solidify their point or to scare you off, right? To make you feel like you need to be responsible for how they're feeling because of the decisions that you've made, which is like one of the oldest tricks in the book, because it really does push people off if they aren't prepared to really, really stand their ground. And there are going to be people that aren't going to be happy with you honoring yourself, right? And that's what it's all about in being assertive, because it means they can't take advantage of you or make you look bad by pushing you to be aggressive about your needs, right? So it's like, well, they're trying to talk you down and be like, no, you don't need this, or why would you need that, or, that's really selfish of you, or anything like that type of language. And, sometimes if someone feels like they need to stand their ground, they will like kind of double down on those emotions, and it can come out aggressive. And then that will make you look bad, and that will make them look like they're in the right. Or they will just try to make fun of you and try to get you to like back down and be like, okay, no, I don't need that, right? So you don't want to be on either ends of those spectrums. You just want to stand your ground and be assertive, be like, oh no, I understand that my needs are important just as well as your needs are important. And maybe this doesn't make you happy. I understand that, but that is not my fault. That is the choice that you are making, right? So you got to be, and that takes practice, right? It takes practice to stand your ground. So you might not necessarily be able to do that first couple times if you feel kind of scared and intimidated by that, which is totally fine. But just continue to push through and be assertive as you can, as much as possible, so that you get to, you get what you need, and you sometimes get what you want, and you feel fulfilled, and you feel heard, and you feel seen, and you feel it really does feed your self-worth as well. But yeah, it is so important to be assertive, to ask for what you want, and to expect it, right? There is no reason you shouldn't have the ability to have or ask for something someone else has. You may not get it. That's just the reality of it. But this shouldn't stop you from asking and believing. Just because you don't get it in that moment, or just because you don't get it even a little bit later, doesn't mean that it won't happen for you. And that's kind of where I see manifestation, the law of attraction, feeding into there a little bit. You got to believe, you got to ask for it. You got to believe that you're going to get it, and you might not get it, or you might get it in a way that you didn't expect to get it. And it probably won't happen right away, but it might happen soon, or it might happen a little bit down the line. But you just got to have the confidence and the courage to speak up and believe that you deserve it as much as someone else does, right? And that is the long and short of it, to be honest with you. And I know that it really does take a mindset shift to step into that kind of thinking of like, yeah, I do deserve this. And yeah, I'm going to ask for it. I'm going to expect it. But I know that it could appear to me or come to me in a different way that I wasn't expecting. And that's totally okay. And just have faith and belief that those wonderful things will come to you, and just continue to live your life. Like, don't have a fit if it doesn't happen right away. That's super important to know. But just have faith that those good things are going to come to you, and don't stop asking and believing. So now about aggressive communication. Aggressive communication is expressing your emotions and opinions and needs in a way that violates other people's needs. This is so, it's tough. This will include domineering, condescending, and sarcastic behavior. And aggressive communication can be exhausting, like really exhausting, and overwhelming to others experience it from a receiver's end. Have you ever encountered an aggressive person and it just seems like a lot? It just seems like wow, they're really piling on a lot. I kind of need a break from this whole situation, right? Because you realize you're just really letting all of that into your mind, your soul, your spirit, your body, and just being like, wow, you're just taking on this heavy load of emotion. And it's just too much. And this type of communication can be seen as unfortunately, a leadership or a commanding quality, but it's not ideal, right? You don't want someone that's just trying to throw their weight around and be aggressive and really, violate other people's needs and wants by putting theirs first and not really honoring them as being on the same playing field, as being equal to them because you think it's all about you. So, yeah, aggressive communication can be tough, but I do feel like as we kind of spoke about in the beginning of the episode, that we can fall into aggressive communication without even realizing it if we are allowing passion to lead us further than we probably need to go, and really trying to get someone, when you're really trying to get someone to understand where you're coming from and what you think and what you believe and why you think and believe those things. And sometimes you can get so loud, start talking over people, and really trying to get them to agree with what you're talking about, when really all you need to do is voice your opinion and let them know that you understand where they're coming from, but this is what you believe, and you don't really need to force it down their throat for them to understand you, right? And so I feel like aggressive communication can fall into it on accident, but also on purpose if you just have this domineering and condescending, sarcastic behavior that I was speaking about. Let's chat about how to be assertive rather than aggressive in our communication to others. I just have a couple do this, do that kind of back and forth suggestions for you. And I have 5 of them that I would love to share with you to wrap this up. So first one is to choose to compromise rather than make a decision that only benefits you. So by choosing to be assertive, you will compromise. So you will find a way that benefits you, but also benefits the other person, as opposed to being aggressive, which would be only choosing something that benefits you, cutting out their opinions, their needs, their wants, their desires, and just being like, no, I'm going to take control of the situation. I'm going to choose what benefits me. And if you don't like it, tough cookies, right? And so that would be the aggressive way to go. So instead, really try to do a compromise, even if it kind of hurts you a little bit inside. You're like, no, I really want to do this thing, but I do want to benefit others, and I do want everyone else to enjoy as much as possible. And honestly, being seen as a peacemaker and someone that's willing to try to let everyone win in the situation will reflect more positively back on you, rather than just making a decision that only benefits you, which will turn into a negative reflection. And just understand that that's important, because you want to be able to continually communicate with these people, or maybe you don't, right? I don't know for sure, but I always think that having the more positive reflection on who you are, not necessarily making everything about what people think about you, but just being able to have that reflection in other people's eyes and know that you are willing to compromise when it's necessary, and that it'll be easier to talk to you about things in the future. Okay, so the second one is take turns listening and speaking with others rather than speaking over them. So speaking over people is one of my things that I get super annoyed about. On Clubhouse, sometimes I'm in a room where I will try to say something and someone will speak over me, or they'll cut me off. And it's one of my biggest pet peeves, because I believe that we should respect each other enough to allow us to finish, or to at least say, excuse me, if we're talking too much or we're rambling, which does happen, just say it in a very respectful way, as opposed to just talking over someone and just making invalidating what they're feeling and what they're sharing, and that it's okay to be rude to people like that, which I don't believe. So just in general, though, the assertive behavior would be to take turns listening and speaking, because you are definitely speaking and sharing what your thoughts and opinions are, but you are allowing someone else to do that too, right? So you are making it fit for both you and the other person, but just speaking over them, you're really only making your point known, your opinion shared with everyone. You don't really care what other people think, and that's actually truly selfish behavior that we should definitely avoid. Okay, so the third one is to try to make things as fair as possible between you and others rather than only looking out for yourself. So, again, this could definitely go back to the last one of listening and speaking and taking turns doing that, or even the first one where you're talking about compromising because it works for everyone, as opposed to just making one decision that only benefits you. Or let's say that you are out with a bunch of friends and you get a flat tire on your car and then you're driving home. And so you're on the side of the road and you're like, oh, I got to figure out what to do. And then one person's like, okay, well, I'm going to call myself a taxi and that's all I'm going to do. And I feel like that's a really aggressive way to communicate to your friends. Like, I don't really care about you. I'm only looking out for myself. You guys are good luck. As opposed to being like, okay, well, let's see if we can find a ride share that can fit us all and we can just like split the cost, or someone will just take the cost this time and then, we'll have someone else trade off and do the cost next time, really trying to figure out how it can be as fair as possible between everyone. And I know not everything can be fair. That's definitely a good life lesson that I've learned so many times over, despite the fact that I am obsessed with fairness, even though I had to get over that because that's not how life works. But trying to get as close to fair as possible, because it really shows that you value what other people want and need and in addition to what you value for yourself and what your needs and wants are. Okay, so the fourth one, as I continue to try to speak and it's become very difficult, the fourth one is express your opinion clearly and confidently, as opposed to yelling, having aggression, threats, or violence, or even threats of violence. So if you have an opinion about something and you're like, I really think dogs are the best pet that you could ever have, right? So you say that and you're like, this is what I believe. I confidently believe in that. And that's just how I feel. And if you feel differently, that's fine, but this is how I feel. Great. That would be a really good assertive way for you to share your opinion clearly and confidently, as opposed to doing it the aggressive way, which would be yelling, aggression, threats, or violence, being like, no, cats are the best. You're so stupid. I can't believe that you think that dogs are the best. You're so dumb. You're so terrible. I am going to come to your house and hurt your dog and just make you realize that cats are better. And, I'm going to tell everyone that you're so stupid because you think dogs are better. You know what I mean? Like just going on this tangent and really just trying to come down on someone with intimidation of believing that they are going to change their mind and side with them because you're really using these scare tactics and being aggressive in your opinion and thinking that yours is the only right one. If someone doesn't side with you, then they're wrong and they deserve to be punished, which is not the case. So it's important for you to distinguish that, yes, go with the more assertive approach, be clear and confident, but understand that not everyone's going to agree with you, as opposed to aggressive, which would be yelling and threats and violence and really trying to force someone to side with you with all of those scare tactics. Okay, so here's the last one, and you can stop listening to me choke all over my words today. My goodness, I apologize. So the last one is to be upfront about your needs rather than expect others to guess or know what you need. Now, let me tell you, this is something that I struggled with so much because I fell into this pit of believing that if someone knew me well enough, then they would know what my needs and wants are, and I wouldn't necessarily have to communicate those things, and I would just expect them, and my expectations were too high, and I feel like people around me were failing me all the time. But that's because I put up these unreasonable expectations because they're super unreasonable because I didn't let anyone know, right? You can't have an expectation and expect people to fulfill those things if they don't even know about it. Like, it's so dumb. And but I didn't realize like I was being so crazy until later. And yeah, I was expecting that, even my husband was like, well, why didn't he get me flowers? Or why didn't he do this, that, and the other? And it's like, no, that's not fair. I didn't even tell him that I would prefer to have those things happen when this experience happens, or that this would be a really nice way to comfort me in this time, or blah, blah, blah. Like, I wasn't being fair, or to friends, or to family, right? So just being upfront and being like, you know what, I could really use some time to hang out and chat. It'd be really nice if if I'm feeling really down and you think that you would want to give me flowers or give me a massage or just sit down and have a chat with me, that would be really great and I could really use that. And, or that is something that I would really cherish if you saw that I was sad one day. Like those kind of things, just being upfront, just being like, hey, these are my needs, these are my desires, this is what would really benefit me. Or you can just switch and be assertive, or go the aggressive route and just really stew in the fact that people are not doing things that you haven't told them to do because you just expect them to do it. It's so aggressive because then you are making up a reason for you to be mad at people and to punish them for not doing something they didn't even know they needed to do to make you happy, which is not their job. Only it is our job to make ourselves happy. So, well, I hope that you enjoyed this little chit chat about, assertive versus aggressive communication and how we should always choose to be assertive rather than aggressive because, aggression, again, will facilitate intimidation, but that doesn't always work and it just really labels you as a bully, which is not what you want either. So, I hope this is really helpful. So thank you so much for listening to the Real Positive Girl podcast with me, Sabrina. Again, check the show notes below and also see where you can hit me up on Instagram at Sabrina Joy Perozzo or Clubhouse at Sabrina J. Perozzo, or send me an email, realpositivegirlpodcast@gmail.com. But until next time, have a good one, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.